everyone, to RC Audio Sports Vodcast. I'm Bobby Mendez alongside Coach Robert Villafranca and Haley Wilson. We welcome you to Season 2, Episode 3. And we want to mention our sponsors at the top here, Martinez and Associates, Rufio, Texas Revolution, Youth Football and Cheer, Proper Realty with Vanessa G. Medina, Brooks, Rock and G Grill, Model Mortgage Plus, Superior Tax Service, Live from the South Side, J-Rod Video Productions, and of course, Harlandale ISD. And on the agenda today, we're going to talk some scores from last Friday and Tuesday's District 28 5A volleyball games. Then we'll get into football, last week's games, and what we got coming up. All right, it was kind of a big week last week, but in volleyball as well, guys, 28 5A volleyball, they're wrapping up the non-district schedule. Coach Villafranca, over these past couple of weeks, what have you noticed what's been going on in 28 5A volleyball?
Well, for me, Bobby, and as we're wrapping it up, last Friday and Tuesday, as you said, the last two non-district games, district starts Friday. I think for me, the story is Southwest. The Dragons have shown a great deal of improvement. Madison Milligan is back for her senior year. She's at least a 3-year letter. She might be a 4-year letter, but she's back for her senior year, and she's getting a lot of help this year. We mentioned Addison Bartlett earlier in the year because the San Antonio Express named her a player to watch, and she certainly has been that. But it's more than just the two of them. The Southwest Dragons finished last year just out of the playoffs in 5th place at 28 5A. And they have already won 20 games this season. 20 games, it's the threshold. It's what you measure your season by. And we've got 14 games to play, and they've already cleared the 20-win threshold. So for me, it's Southwest, and they lost a tough one on Friday. Let me refresh my memory on that. I know Friday was a tough one. Oh, to Floresville, who was a playoff team for 28 5A last year. Floresville now a 4A team, but Southwest lost a tough one on Friday, but they came back and swept Burbank in 3 sets. And so I think they're ready to go. I see them as contending. They're title contenders for me, and that's my takeaway.
Yeah, and talk about that Floresville Southwest game. Looked like by the scores, it looked like it went for all they can handle there. So, Haley, what about you? What do you think about this 28 5A non-district matchup that's happened so far?
Yeah, for me, I know one of the big stories in 28 5A is South San, who last year, didn't reach that 20-win threshold. They went 18-22. They finished 7th in their different district, alternative district that they played in last year. But again, still a lot of games left to play, have already crossed that 20-win threshold. So have kind of done a complete 180 compared to where they were at last year. I know some of the different players that we've talked about so far and players to watch have really been all over the map. We have sophomore Ariana Gomez. We have senior Alexis Martinez. We have a junior Angelina Munoz. So we have, talent. They have talent all across the board. And kind of similar to what Coach had said, they lost a tough game last Friday to Bernie. Ended up going to 4 sets. So, didn't get swept or anything like that. But again, came back and swept their games on Tuesday a couple of days ago, swept Wagner 3-0. So they're coming in, probably learned a little bit with the loss, tighten things up with that last non-district game against Wagner. And then they're going to be playing Medina Valley to get district play kicked off just this Friday, the 9th. So for me, that's kind of one of the big stories. I love seeing teams really start to find themselves, turn things around, and see a lot of success really early on in the season.
Always fun to watch when they do that kind of stuff.
I'm really glad to have them in the district, Haley. I'm glad you mentioned them. They were 6A last year, the last couple of alignments, and they were traveling across town playing other teams. But I think South San is right there where they belong, right here with 28 5A. Unfortunately for the rivals here on the south side of town, they're playing in the D1 football conference, so they don't play they don't play in our football district that we cover. But glad to have them in all the other sports.
Haley, you touched on district coming up this week, this Friday. You mentioned South San and Medina Valley, but this is it. This is what all this non-district was all about. Get prepared for this. And then, Coach, why don't you, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about who is in this district and who we're going to be seeing as we will be covering some of these volleyball games as well.
It is the 28-5A redo that we've had the last reclassification, except for Floresville went to 4A and South San moved from 6A to 5A. So we have South San and Medina Valley, Southwest and Wynn, Harlandale and Southside, McCullum and Southwest Legacy. It's 8 teams, so it's 4 games every Tuesday and every Friday night. And the district opener, they count for real. These, they start really counting on Friday night.
So, Haley, I know you mentioned that you're getting into the volleyball yourself and doing some recreational volleyball. So tell me what your thoughts are going into district for these teams.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think one of the cool things about volleyball compared to all of the other sports we cover and even just the sports that I played is that they have a really long kind of preseason.
Yeah.
Right. So they're, playing 20 plus games prior to the games counting, if you will. And so I'm just excited to see how some of the teams kind of translate into actual district play. I think it's really cool that for volleyball, they have such a long ramp to really get up and hit their peak, hopefully, or hit their stride. Of course, that's the goal for, things to click and things to get moving. So I'm excited, honestly, to just see some of the newer teams that we didn't get the chance to cover last year, and then kind of see how the teams that we did cover last year, how they've grown since we last streamed some of the games.
Great point, Bobby. If you let me chime in on that one, it is a long non-district schedule. And that's why, they had games on Friday and Tuesday, and all the games are important. But I was trying not to put too much stock in them, because if you're gonna do load management on a volleyball team in 28-5A, you probably want to, do a little load management these last 2 ball games and get the kids in ready for get the kids ready for that long haul. 14 games. There's still 14 games to go, and the top 4 going to playoffs. But that's a good point. I had that thought myself too. It seems like a long non-district.
Long time. It's a lot of games.
Definitely a lot of games, and more games starting this Friday as well. District has already started for football over in the district that we cover. That is 14-5A Division 2. So they've gotten started. Harlandale picked up their first win in district. McCullum not able to get that win. It was a tough one for them against the Highlands. Harlandale over Edison. We covered those 2 games. We'll get into detail on that and then talk about some other games. But let's start off with the Thursday night game that we covered over at the beautiful Alamo Stadium. I know both you guys enjoyed broadcasting from there. I know I always do. But let's go to you, Coach, first. Harlandale 20, Edison 14. Indians starting off the season with a win in the district schedule.
Oh boy, they did walk away. They rode the happy bus home thanks to Carlos de la Vega, who got a couple of interceptions, and one that we thought was a game-sealing interception, but it got a little iffy even after de la Vega's interception there in the 4th quarter. But both teams, it's still early, and opposite of volleyball, football has 1 non-district game, and man, they got to be ready to roll in week 2. And really, either one, Edison or Harlandale could have ridden that happy bus home. There was they both missed a couple of opportunities to score, and that it was just the luck of the draw that I think that. For Harlandale to ride that happy bus home from Alamo Stadium. But Edison, Edison was right there with them, and they really they had a couple of missed opportunities to get the ball in the end zone, and had they connected on those opportunities, it could have been a very different outcome. But it was interesting to see. Harlandale Jacob Salcedo, first time, his first year as a starting quarterback. He had some reps last year, but Coach Torres not afraid to put the ball in the air, and he's got a great wide receiver in Saxon Langenberg over there. But yeah, it was a great game, 20-14. The Indians 1-0 after the first week.
Yeah, and Haley, we Coach mentioned Carlos de la Vega, the big interception at the end, kind of what we thought would have sealed the deal there. But Talk about the defense for Harlandale in that game, the pressure that was put on the quarterback, and essentially causing him to throw those kinds of passes that created those interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw a really good defense from the Indians in the first half, right? It was neck and neck, right? Edison didn't score, I think, until like a minute and 30 left in the second quarter, right? So both teams, honestly, were scoreless throughout the first half of the game. But I think kind of one of the big differences that, again, put the game away for Harlandale was towards the end of the game, they were just pressuring the quarterback so much that he was having to quick release the ball, really wasn't able to hit his receivers in stride. I know, number 20, Carlos de la Vega, he was our Rufio defensive player of the game. He had two massive interceptions. The one that we thought was going to seal the game, I think played a part in it, right? But ultimately, I think it was the entire Indians defense that helped get the win.
Aiden Sosa, you talk about pressure, and I heard you guys call Aiden Sosa's name several times, and Jackson Garcia had some plays in the defensive backfield as well. So, yeah, kudos to that Harlandale defense.
Let's talk about the offensive side for the Indians real quickly. Saxon Langenberg, Coach, you already mentioned quarterback Salcedo, how he did a great job, but Saxon Langenberg was our offensive player of the game. That's brought to you by Martinez and Associates. But I mean, Langenberg had some huge plays, and I think it was one touchdown that went for 60 plus yards.
It was like 65 yards or
yeah.
Yeah, yes. I think Saxon did a really great job. I think he had those big plays that the Indians really needed to really turn the momentum and kind of switch the momentum.
You talk about the big plays, Jacob Salcedo. As I watched that replay, that was a Texas Revolution Youth Football and Cheer play of the game. But you see Jacob Salcedo buying some time for himself, and he avoided the rush, and he kept his eyes downfield, and that's the thing to do when you've got Saxon Langenberg running a route. He's gonna get free eventually if you can just buy the time, and Salcedo did that, and he got the ball to him, and the game was won by 6 points, so every touchdown mattered there. But the Texas Revolution Youth Football and Cheer play of the game right there. For the
Indians. And we certainly saw the evolution of Salcedo within that game. It was a very slow start, kind of a timid, if you will, kind of his body maneuvers. His whole was a little timid, but towards the end of the game, he looked very confident, really confident. And I think I remember one play, he looked just like Brett Favre, just slinging that football. So it was great to see that whole process in just one game.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I said it, I think, during the stream, but it felt like first half, both teams were kind of timid. Whatever coach for the Indians said at halftime, whatever he said, it worked because Coach Shorter has had those guys fired up and looking like you said, Bobby, Brett Favre in the second half.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things, Bob, that's one of the things I look for in a young quarterback is, does under pressure, does he tuck and run, or does he stay engaged in the pass game? And really, there's not like the right answer and the wrong answer. If you're Brett Favre, you stay engaged. If you're Johnny Manziel, you probably tuck and run. It depends. Depends on your skills. But Jacob's a tall quarterback, and he's going to be able to get that ball downfield. And it probably serves the Indians best for him to buy time and look downfield. I'm sure he can run when he needs to, and he had a couple of nice runs as well. But that was it's very interesting to see. For me, a young quarterback, is it an immediate tuck and run, or do we stay in this pass game?
And you talk about what's continuing to be interesting is to see how he responds for the next game, which is going to be against Lanier. We'll actually have that game as well. So that's what I'm going to be looking for when we see the Indians again. I'm going to be looking for how is Jacob Salcedo taking that win? Is he keep the same confidence level, or is it still going to take him a little bit of time to get into the rhythm of things? So we do have that game coming up on Friday.
Big game on Friday there from the San Antonio ISD Sports Complex. And for me, Bob, I'm going to be interested in whether the Indians are able to develop that run game. It was a little, it's week 2, but that run game was a little behind the pass game. And to get through this district, you're going to have to be balanced. And I know that the Indians went back to practice this past week, really aiming to sharpen the run game. Edison did a great job of stifling the run attack for Harlandale.
Yeah, and expect on the other side of the ball for Lanier, as we're talking through the Harlandale and Lanier game that we're going to be covering, expect Lanier to run the ball a lot. I know it's kind of hard to find fully correct, up-to-date stats online these days, from some of the previous games that have already happened. But I looked at Lanier's box score last week. They ended up defeating Jefferson 36-6, and it looked like they ran the ball majority of the time. So on the other side of the ball, expect Lanier to hit the ground running literally for their offense this week. We'll see how Harlandale is able to respond.
We check as many sites as we can to verify these stats. And as you say, sometimes you look at a stat and you say, well, is this 200? I think all 293 yards for Lanier were on the ground. They threw the ball a couple of times, but just didn't connect.
Yeah.
But 293 yards of offense and 293 yards on the ground. So Lanier's got that running game going, and it's going to be. Harlandale's defense will be tasked to slow that down a little bit. So a little bit of air from the Indians and a little bit of ground from Lanier. Should be interesting.
Well, the setting is set. It's going to be Harlandale pass and attack versus the ground attack for Lanier for Friday night. So make sure you, same channel, YouTube, right here. Check it out. So that was for Thursday. That was what we had on Thursday. Then Friday, McCollum hosted Highlands in their first district game. The McCollum Cowboys lost 27-10. It was a tough start for the McCollum Cowboys, but on the positive note, what we saw in the first game for the McCollum Cowboys, we also saw in the second game. We saw some good movement with the offense. There's some things to talk about, Coach Javier Franca, about this McCollum team that they're under a brand new quarterback, sophomore, I believe, Justin Rodriguez. So. They graduated a lot of seniors, and now it's time for these sophomores to come in and establish themselves as leaders in this ball club.
Yeah, Bobby, Justin Rodriguez is so fun to watch, and you're right. He's a sophomore, and he's got a lot of football ahead for him. But again, as I pointed out earlier, when you're watching a young quarterback, you're kind of looking to see whether he stays engaged in the game. The other thing that I think that Justin Rodriguez, I feel like he's ahead of schedule here, is that he really throws the ball across the middle, and young quarterbacks aren't prone to do that. They're looking for that sideline route. They're looking for that curl and that out, and maybe a rollout. Things out there around the hash marks and the numbers and so forth. But Justin has no fear at throwing that ball across the middle, and a lot of times you'll spend half a season or a full sophomore season trying to get a quarterback to get that ball between the hash marks, and Justin does a good job of that, and he's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and Haley, I know you weren't able to go to the game or be there for that, but
we missed you, Haley. Don't do that to us.
But it again. We are in a new district. These are teams that Harlandale ISD has not seen in quite some time. But it was exciting to see Highlands and some other teams from the area. I mean, Highlands is. I think I did the map when I had to pick up Caesar from Highlands to come over to Memorial Stadium. It was, I think, 5.8 miles was on the direction there. So we're not very far from Highlands over there. So it was just a small little trip over there, but same community, southeast side, basically. So a little rivalry there, if you will. But it was a great defensive effort for Highlands and Coach Castillo and his team. It's his third year back at Highlands, coming from a school in Dallas. So whole new area for Coach Castillo, and made the playoffs the first couple of years that he was with Highlands.
Yeah, so, they're tough. Highlands, Bobby, I see, it's early. And, I guess you can hold me to this in 9 weeks if you want to, but I think Highlands is a top 4 team. I think they're very good, and I see them finishing in the top 4 of 14-5 AD2. And fun fact, the border between Harlandale ISD and SAISD to Highlands is the San Antonio River. So you know how that close is. You cross the river, and you're in SAISD. You cross it this way, and you're in Harlandale ISD. So that's a part of the Riverside Golf Course is on Harlandale's side, and the 9 holes are on SAISD side, and 9 holes are on Harlandale side. So that's how close we are.
Well, in talking about the Highlands Owls, I mean, one of the players that really stood out for me was Willie Gaskin. He was the Martinez and Associates Offensive Player of the Game. Boy, did he start out the game the way anyone wants to start out a game in a season, especially district play. One play, quick pass out. I think he went 86 yards or so for a touchdown. He found that sidelines, and no one was going to catch up to him.
He's a missed tackle. He's a missed tackle from scoring a touchdown every time. And I know there's not a defensive coordinator that's going to prepare for Highlands that is not going to talk about Willie Gaskin. And he, as you said, he was our offensive player of the game. And offensive player of the game, who is that? Is that Desi? Is that Martinez and Associates?
Yes, Martinez and Associates.
He was our Martinez and Associates offensive player of the game. Willie Gaskin, he's for real, man. I'm going to tell you, he's for real.
Yeah, and he also, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong, Coach, but got the San Antonio Express News.
Oh, that's right.
He got a game ball from the Express News this week as well. So he wasn't just getting awards and accolades from us, but also from the San Antonio Express.
That's right. That was it. And before we get too far away from that, on the volleyball side, I failed to mention Haley Hurtado, also an SAEN, San Antonio Express News game ball this past week. And Haley's, we're gonna talk a lot about Haley as we get through the season. She's special. She's a senior. She runs cross country. She runs track. She plays volleyball. She's an athlete.
What doesn't surprise me with the name Haley, Coach?
Something about Haley.
Yeah. And then on the defensive side, the Rufio defensive player of the game was Adam Cantu, number 8. He's a senior defensive back. He had a interception to really kind of bust this game, keep it in Highlands wheelhouse so they can knock this first win out for them. 27-10 was their score.
Before we get away from that, Adam Cantu was the Texas Revolution youth football and cheer play of the game, and now that one sealed the game. And it was a 57-yard interception, pick 6, and it was he must have run 200 yards because he caught the ball at the near numbers, and he went all the way across the field. That's 50 yards to the other sideline, and then went down. So all the way to the sideline, he knocked the pylon out. Great call there live for you, Bobby. And Adam Cantu was our Rufio defensive player of the game, and he had the play and the play of the game.
In the play of the game. Well, that's a double award there almost. This is the first year we give 2 or multiple awards for that. So pretty interesting that the defensive player of the game is also in the play of the game. So that's pretty cool. But those are the games that we actually were there physically to watch, and we saw 2 great games. Indians get their first win, McCullum their first loss, but they get a bounce back because they have another game coming up pretty soon. Coach, do you want to go into some of the scores that's for the rest of that week?
Well, this past week, let's see what we have here. Let me pull the schedule up.
I mean, I have it in front of me.
Go ahead, Bob. You got it there? Go ahead. Okay. I don't have them memorized yet.
Okay. So Brack lost to Alamo Heights 23-56. Sam Houston lost to Burbank 14-24. That was the first win over Sam Houston since 2018 for the Bulldogs. Jefferson fell to Lanier 36-6. Those are the scores for that week, this past week, in the first week of district play.
A side thought on that, Burbank making some noise. They're 2-0. They've got their 1-0 in district, 2-0 for the season, and Burbank is making some noise. They've got my attention. And speaking of things that are going on at the San Antonio Express News, they were ranked number 6 in 6A in sub 6A football in the area. So a 6th place ranking for the Dogs. They're getting some attention. Good for them.
Well, they did have a couple of years of hiatus when Phil Baron came in to Burbank as head coach. He kind of revitalized that program just a little bit, and they got into playoff situations. And then, of course, South San called Phil Baron back home. He is a South San ISD guy. He graduated from South San High School. So that job opened up. He took that job over at South San, Phil Baron did. And then it kind of took the Burbank Bulldogs maybe a couple years to get back up. But this is, I think, since then, this is something that's positively happening for Burbank as they're getting some wins again. All right, let's talk about some of the upcoming games that we have. We've already mentioned that we've got Harlandale at Lanier from the SAISD Sports Complex on Friday night, so we'll be there. Haley, why don't you tell us about what else is coming up in the district?
Yeah, we have Jefferson and Sam Houston, who are both squaring off on Friday. Both teams still looking for their first win in district. I think this is going to be a pretty even matchup. A lot of their stats look the same when it comes to points for and points against. So Jefferson and Sam Houston both looking for their first wins in district this week. We have Alamo Heights at Highlands. Two undefeated teams in district. On paper, it looks like Alamo Heights has a little bit stronger of a defense. So curious to see how the Highlands Owls end up shaping up against Alamo Heights. I know Highlands quarterback Joseph Clay did really well last week. So we'll see how that matchup shakes out. We have Edison at McCollum, who are two teams both 0-1 in district, looking for their first district wins. And then we have Burbank at Brackenridge. And as Coach said, Burbank definitely making some noise, named one of the top teams in sub 6A, running the ball really well right now. But Brackenridge just came off of a kind of big loss to Alamo Heights. So expect them to come out with some fire as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking to that Edison McCollum game at Memorial Stadium on Friday. That's going to be a big one. And it's hard in the second week of the season or the third week of the season, second week of the district season, it's kind of hard to call something a must win. But this is as close as you can get in week 3. Edison and McCollum, it's going to be hard to take a loss here and make up for it down the road. I don't know. It's one of those games that I think Edison and McCollum, a couple of bubble teams. I see them at the 4 in that area, and it's gonna. I don't know if there's room enough for both teams in the top 4. I guess is what I'm getting at. So a loss against the other is going to be, it's going to leave a mark. So this is, it's a big game. It can't be a must win in week 2, but it's close. It's close.
My thoughts on that, Coach, is, just after being able to see the last 2 McCollum games, McCollum, I feel all they have to do is really focus on their discipline a little bit more. I think penalties is what kind of really gets them out of ball games a lot of times, because they'll come up with some really big plays and then it's coming back because there's a holding or there's a false start or an illegal block. There's some things that are just happening with them, and I think as the weeks go on, maybe a team like Edison would be if they can get everything going straight. Yeah. Maybe that would be an opportunity for them to come out with
certainly an area that McCollum is looking to improve on, and especially and as you said, both games. But I thought at South Sound there were just some drive ending penalties that just really killed them. And yeah, that's an important part. You ask any coach what are the keys to the game, and one of them is no penalties, no turnovers. But yeah, that's a big one. That's an area that I'm sure McCollum is looking to improve on.
All right. Well, right before we move on to other things here, we tapped a little bit on the Harlandale at Lanier. Coach, tell us what we're looking for when we see Harlandale at Lanier.
Well, the first thing is we're at the San Antonio ISD Sports Complex, and Alamo Stadium is beautiful in its own right, but we were there visiting, making sure that we had all the accommodations set up for our stream, and man, those guys take care of their fields. I mean, that grass, the grass on the field looked like fairway grass, and it's just it's one of the few times that the 28-5A is going to play on real turf, not artificial turf, but it's in great shape. And if you can make it, come on out. Last week we talked about our viewers watching in Japan and in Hawaii and Chicago and Monterrey, Mexico, Austin. And if you're in one of those areas, tune in, man. We're here for you. But if you can make it to the game, you'll have a good time. It's as we said earlier, Lanier's got a good running game going. Harlandale's got the air game going. Both of them, I'm sure. Lanier's hoping to balance out a little bit in the air. Harlandale's hoping to balance out a little bit on the ground. And again, is trying to clean up. There were a couple of missed assignments there were a couple of bullets that Harlandale dodged last week against Edison. So that's probably an area that Coach Stotis is working on over there at Harlandale. Is we can't have those breakdowns. We're not going to have people overthrow those passes all the way down the stretch. So tighten up those assignments. Know exactly where you're supposed to be. And Harlandale looking to improve the ground game. Lanier probably looking to throw the ball a little bit more.
Haley, when we go to the game on Friday, what are you going to be looking for specifically between these two teams?
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for Harlandale to start off the way they finished the game last week, right? Again, that both teams, I think, started, I don't want to say flat, but just not a lot of momentum, not a lot of energy. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing if Harlandale can start off the game really strong, right? So it doesn't feel like as much of a comeback right towards the end. You have a little bit of wiggle room. You're not biting your nails towards the end of the game. And I've never covered a Lanier, so I'm excited to kind of, again, be able to cover a new team to the district.
Coach Salte is in his first year as a head coach. He's a Lanier alum. He's took over for Coach Gayton, who is the head coach at Lanier for decades. And so Salte is in his first year as a head coach there.
Yeah, I think the word you were looking for, Haley, when you were describing Harlandale's efforts in the first half, they didn't have any Hugo, as Coach would tell us.
Hugo.
Yeah, they didn't have any Hugo.
Dame Hugo.
Yeah, that's what they were missing in the first half last week.
Yeah.
Always use a little of that.
Yeah, we're running a little short on time. This was a great conversation, but one of the things I wanted to finish with are some final thoughts, whatever it is that you want to talk about. I'll lead the way just because we're transitioning here, and I already wanted to mention that something I saw was really cool on my feed, and it's out of a Northeast ISD. It is a MacArthur High School football player who is also a member of the marching band. I thought that's very cool. Carson.
Hey, Bob, not just a member. What is he? A drum major.
He's a drum major. Yeah, he's on the platform there.
He's up there.
Doing
6A. 6A football.
Yeah. Very seldom do you see that kind of happen. I see it a lot when I covered 1A, 2A, 3A football, but not
at 6A. That was big.
Yeah, so Carson Zimmerman, I just wanted to give a shout out to him. We got about a minute. So,
for me, real quickly, Bob, next Tuesday starts our volleyball coverage. We're going to be at South San, Harlandale at South San. So I'm looking forward to that. We hope that you will join us. And what I saw on the internet, on the webs, I saw a principal at South San leading the student section. How great is that? So principals, get out there. That was fun.
Haley.
Only shout out I got, I saw SAISD, Harlandale ISD, a bunch of the school districts honoring Uvalde this week, wearing maroon for their first day of school all over the internet. So that was my favorite thing on the web this week.
How great is that?
All right. Well, thank you for watching. This was a longer podcast, but we're happy that you joined us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you Friday night.